Hello, hello. Welcome to Psychic Talk. I'm your host, Priscilla Gendron, and welcome to another amazing chat with another amazing person. And she's no stranger to this chat. We have done a series together, and we've known each other for many years. And so it's my great honor and privilege to welcome an author who does definitely inspire the conscious creation of our lives and helps us to align with our purpose, the one and only author, Dr. Maddie Gomes. Welcome, Maddie.
Thank you so much, Priscilla. As always, I love speaking to you.
We always seem to have such fun and so much to talk about. And we're going to keep our time limited because we can just chat for hours. So,
yes.
You've written a book. You and I are an author. Wow, amazing, phenomenal. What got hold of you that you ended up writing a book?
Priscilla, the book was in me for a while, but I knew I didn't have the ending yet. So it was milling in my mind for years. And then all of a sudden, I just had this urge and this feeling, you need to write the book, you're ready, So I wrote the book last year and it was just literally flowing out of me. It took me 3 days. I wrote the book. I had the framework in my mind for so long, and it is about my life and how I overcame trauma and just life, that's throwing us off course, and we feel like we are swimming upstream and life is such a storm, when actually I changed my view totally about that once I wrote my book, because as I wrote my book, it was also divinely guided to me, and I started to see a pattern about my life and how it was actually guiding me towards where I need to be. But I was the one who was swimming upstream, who was fighting it because we fear change. So then we make it so difficult for ourselves. So I wrote the I Am Possible, and it's just all about divinely given to me. The information is just so sacred to me. But having said that, there is a program in there, a 7-step program of how to reprogram your mind, your body, and reconnect to your soul once you accept and the change that's coming into your life, because we're not the same after we experience changes. And we try and still go back and be the same, and we still try and do the same work, and we still try and hook up with the same people in your life, and it's not working. And then we go into another dark night of the soul, because now the whole life is falling apart. What is happening to me? And that happened to me 3 times. And then I realized it was me clinging to things and outcomes that I should not cling on to. So this book is, it came to me when I was in a very, very dark space in my life. I lost my husband, I lost my brother. I got through that. And then my business got targeted by a crime syndicate, and I had to close it, and I lost my business and my home, furniture, everything in Durban. So as you know, that story traumatized me deeply, because I was a top 10 businesswoman. Where do I go from here? I have a small child that and I had no income. I had no career, and I didn't fit anywhere, because who's now going to employ an ex-director of a top 10 company? They don't want to employ me. I was unemployable. And what do? Although I was already a doctor in metaphysical science when I had my business and a pranic healer, I actually never saw, I applied it in my business and that made me successful, but I never saw that as a single career. How crazy is that?
Yeah, it's kind of like you just had it as a tool or something,
yes.
in your tool belt.
Yes. And it was also part of my programming, because my programming was business. You have to be in business, you need to do good, and this is what you should be and please everybody. And I didn't realize that I stepped into that mold that everybody was set up for me. And I got judged and called names when I actually studied metaphysical science, which actually put me connected me deeply with me at the time after my husband passed. So And the pranic healing saved my own life because I was very ill. I suffered from delayed shock. And I never thought of putting that full time into a career. And I went into the very deep, dark night of my soul. And one night I thought, I can't cope with this life anymore. I wanted to just end my life, literally and seriously. And I sat in my car by myself in front of the sea. And I said, God, I'm out. I'm sorry. I don't know where you are, where you were. I deeply believed in God, not religion, in God, since a very young child, because I grew up with trauma as a child. And I just felt that God forgot about me. You know, where is he? And I said, I'm out. And then this voice that I blocked for so long going through the trauma came back to me that moment in the car and said to me, there is another way. I will show you the way. And we had a little conversation, a long conversation. Actually, I was arguing and giving reasons why I'm not following and I'm not going to do this and I'm going to end my life. And a long story short is eventually I felt this presence and I just calmed down. And I said, okay, because I thought, what can I lose? I can't lose anything. I've lost everything already. And then I came home. I was calm, not knowing what to expect. And since then, my voice is back within me. And it literally guided me step by step. When I had a negative thought, the voice would come and say, but why don't you look at it like this? Why don't you look at it like that? Why don't you just do this, try that, you know? And that's how I was literally guided. And I heard the word, the Jacob's ladder. So when the voice came to me in the car, I felt like I'm sitting at the bottom of a pit and I'm looking up in the silo, and it was so deep and so dark, I didn't see my way climbing out of this. So I even said that. I said, I'm so deep down in this darkness, I cannot get out. I can't even see the light. And the voice said, I will show you how to climb it out step by step. What I didn't realize at the time, it was the chakra system, the energy system, and how I had to reprogram each of my energy systems and heal them to discover who I truly am. So it's a beautiful process. And 2 years later, after that, I realized that I've got a program. And I sat on my bed the night and I said, God, okay, I'm fine now. I've got a program I can help so many people with, but what do I do with it? What do I call it? And that night I had another presence in my room and it says, I heard impossible. So I wrote it down, and then I woke up the next morning and I knew something happened in my room. It wasn't the first time. And I looked at the paper and I said, I can't call this impossible. And the voice was immediately back and said, I am possible. So that's where the I am possible came from. But, you know, when I went through the trauma, there was no program in my mind, no book, no speaker events, no new life. It was just survival to get out of where I was at that moment. So what I want to say to the people who are listening as well is when we go through these changes and we go through the dark night of the soul so that we can lose the layers of the past that's not serving us anymore and holding us back to be in our greatness, we don't need to know the path ahead. We don't need to know every goalpost that we need to achieve. We just need to surrender and have faith and just trust the process. And when we only gain the wisdom when we connect the dots back.
Exactly. And I think that, you know, from what you say about the book and the things that you've gone through, there are so many people today that have gone through not the same thing as you, but similar things and are going through the same kind of trauma that you've been through. And they're looking for answers. They're looking for, how do I get out of this pit that I'm in? You know, where's that lifeline, that ladder that's going to get me out of that? And so that your book and you bringing your book into fruition has enabled people to, you've given them their Jacob's ladder.
Yes. And you know what's the beauty is the journey that I walk is when I coach and teach this to people. I feel like that same divine essence and energy comes in, and my clients can feel it as well. I've seen miracles happening in front of me while I'm mentoring and teaching this. It's a beautiful system, but it was guided 100%. And I tell you why I'm so absolutely impressed with this, and that's restored my faith, is one day I sat at my desk and I worked through the root system, which is the beliefs, where we start, which is rooting us into who we are and what we believe we are, and you know, everything from there we create. So I've worked through the belief system, and I realized my beliefs were warped because I grew up in a domestic violent home. And I was the eldest, and I always felt like I was in the way. My mom really didn't want me, and I was treated like that, and told, you know, I should never have had kids and all that. And I actually endured quite a bit of emotional abuse without knowing that affected my belief system about myself. And I never thought of that. I never looked at that. I always helped others, but I never looked at that. And when the I Am Possible started to work through me, that was the first place I had to go and look. And then I would think about incidents that would come up as a child. And this voice would come in and say, okay, this incident happened, but what wisdom did you gain from that? And that's where I learned alchemy. We can either keep on looking at the pain and keep on looking at what we experience at that moment that disabled and disempowered us, or we can turn that situation around and we can say, what did it serve me? And this is what I've learned through this process. So you alchemize your pain into wisdom, and the mind starts to see wisdom and no pain, and it's instant healing. It is so beautiful. So you have to go through the process of that alchemizing your past, your beliefs, into wisdom, and then you merge your past with your future. So you're not taking the pain with you, you are only taking the wisdom with you, and through that you create, and this is the seed of the soul, where we create who we are, our relationships, what we become, what everything that stems from those beliefs. So then you can create a new vision of you. Who do I want to become? What do I want to do? So beginning of last year, I remember every beginning of a year, I sit and I say, what do I want to achieve this year? So beginning of last year, I said, I do want to write books, and I want to tour, and I want to teach it to everyone. And then that message came, write the book. I wrote the book. And then I started to get clients, and I started to mentor them, which I got in 2017 already, when the program was established, but not the book. But this time it goes deeper. Every time I go into it, it shows me more, and it's deeper. And then from that vision, you have to create your self-esteem, because now you need confidence to carry you forward in this new vision. You can't now say, I'm not good enough. Nobody loves me. This is wrong with me, or that's wrong with me. That's not your new vision. This is now filling your container with a new belief system that honors you, that step into your greatness, into your purpose, using your strengths and your passion to become who you want to become. And then I got stuck on the heart. And when I got to the heart, because you can imagine, I was angry, I was resentful, I was full of hate, I was unforgiving. I didn't know that. But then it forced me to look into my heart. And I always have my student Bible lying on my desk. And, you know, I see the Bible totally different from normal people. I do readings for people out of the Bible, and it just speaks to me in a way, different way. And I open it, and I open it in my Bible on Psalm 51. And holy moly, can you believe it? And it says, you have to cleanse your heart from all hatred, unforgiveness, resentment, anger, bitterness, and go into the bottom of your heart and clean it out, because you cannot have that and love and God in your heart. You can only have one of those. So it's either the hatred and the bitterness that poisons the body and the beliefs, and you cannot have a new vision for your future when you still hold on to those emotions. You have to go through a forgiveness process and forgive everybody, because it's important to remember people who hurt us, and we also hurt people, by the way, people who hurt it. It's like Jesus said, God forgive them, they don't know what they're doing. It is super powerful, because when you realize they don't know what they're doing, my clients, when I coach and mentor them, and they've got parent issues in their adulthood that's coming back and affecting them, and I teach them, but they didn't know, did your parents ever experience love from their parents? Did they ever experience a parent that said, I'm so proud of you? Did they ever experience a parent that said, you know, I'm supporting you, even if you want to go into a career that's not in my line of thinking or understanding? No, they were all criticized. There was no love, there was survival. And so they just passed it on to the next generation, which is us, and the next generation. And it inflicted deep-seated wounds. So if you understand, God forgive them, they don't know what they're doing, and it comes from the bottom of your heart, I can tell you, it is the most powerful tool you can use to empower yourself, because it sets you free from that whole lot that hurt you, disappoint you, whatever it might be. You are free to just be loved, to have gratitude, love in your heart, and you spread that through all your new relationships. Your whole life changes. I've seen family members not speaking to each other with my clients, and then I teach them that when we get to the heart, and they go back for family suppers and so on, and they do not engage in the family fights anymore. They don't engage in family arguments or criticism. They just don't feed the energy, they starve it, and they just stay in love in their hearts, and they tell themselves, forgive them. They clearly don't know more and better. I have seen families where that calmed down in total, and they started to rebuild their relationships. It is so, so powerful. And that's why I love the I Am Possible. It makes you possible, and it gives you impossible over to God, literally.
That's what the most important thing is that we have to realize our own faults, our own triggers, so that we can move past those in order to make ourselves possible, to live the best life we have to live, to live the reason why we're here, because we didn't just turn up here to be criticized. We're here for a specific purpose, and so we have to live our purpose.
Yeah, that is true. And most of us live from our hurts, from our wounds, from our self-sabotage. We're not believing, we've never been taught to love ourselves. You know, I had clients who couldn't even look in the mirror and say, I love you. Because it's not something you've been taught. You've been taught you're not good enough. You know, look at you, look at that, look at this. And once we realize that those are past unbeliefs, and the people who inflict it are also hurting because they heard that, and all they do is they pass it on, they don't think about it, because there was no consciousness teachings then. The more you become conscious about who you are, how you speak, and how you treat others, the more you elevate yourself out of that bottom pit of darkness, and you become the light that ignites the spark in others.
But I think the biggest thing in it as well is that nobody can do it for you. They can give you the tools, like you've got the book, which is a tool, but you can't help them out of the darkness. They need to step out themselves.
Yeah, I can teach them. I literally teach each session when I mentor my clients, and they can purchase the book and they can read the book. But yeah, if you're not willing, and I've seen, I had clients who were not willing in the beginning. They would land to me because they are in a situation that they cannot tolerate any longer. And somebody told them, go to do this and do that. And they are still stuck in fear. Now, it says in 2 Corinthians, it speaks about this, that we become comfortable in our pain. We become so used to it that we are scared to leave it, because it's better to be uncomfortable than to step out of that uncomfortableness and embrace a new chapter. But let me tell you, the longer you are stuck in that uncomfortableness that you choose to be stuck in, the worse it's going to get, because all that you know already fell away. So now you are in the wilderness, literally. And how long do you want to camp in that wilderness? You know, not supposed to camp. You're just supposed to walk through, lose all the layers, wash yourself clean with all your tears, and start to climb the mountain to the top with the wisdom that you've gained from the past. But what do? We're scared of the unknown. So we stay in the pain, and that becomes comfortable. And it's very sad. And I did it as well. So I know it full well.
It's not an easy journey to do, especially when a lot of the trauma has been so deep-seated that it takes a person a minute or two to breathe, to let go of the things that are there, because they're so ingrained, maybe from years and years and years, from childhood, and you know, sometimes even in after conception, you know what I mean? It's so ingrained in these cells that it's very difficult to let it go and to move on from that.
Well, we're born with it. When you look at it, but in your seed, like this is an oak tree seed, and in there, the whole program of becoming the biggest tree out through the right nurturing. We have a seed as well. That seed was in the mother's womb, but it's programmed with my father and my mother's blueprints in there, with their family's blueprints in there, and all the unhealed wounds and all their beliefs. And then on top of it, it's programmed with our past lives.
Yes.
So we come with a flippant package full when we are born. And now we are born into this family that we are already in ourselves is the memory of their beliefs, their unhealed wounds, and their habits, and all the stuff. And we're born into that, and it gets reinforced, obviously, because now you're in there. So only through your own path, some kids at the early age, mine was about 8 years old, 7, 8, I just realized one day, I don't want a life like this. I just know that my life is never going to look like this. And I just had a moment of aha, waking up. And then at school, we had a Bible class, and I never really paid too much attention. It was beautiful and so on. But that day, the teacher taught a class, and I cannot remember what it was about, but I know that I was touched in my heart that day. I could feel an energy coming over me in that class, and everything she taught me was like I was in the story, and I could feel it and see it, and it changed my life. And since that day, I have never been the same again. So that was my waking up at about 8 years old, is to realize I don't want to be like this. I'm not going to behave like that. So I became different, which made my situation worse, because it looked like I never fit in. I'm always upstream. Nobody understood me because, I'm not like my family, and I don't believe in the same. I questioned things, and I didn't just take information for granted. And I was connected, and nobody knew really what was it in me that was so different, because I didn't share my experience with them, because I didn't think they're going to understand. It makes no difference. And my life became actually worse. It became harder, because the more I changed and the more I stepped then already into my purpose, because then I started to help children in school who had less than me. I started to give my jersey away to children, my sandwiches away to the poor. And it's a long story. I picked up every hurt animal and brought them home. Wasn't very popular for that, but never mind. It was just, I couldn't help it. I just had to do it.
Yeah, we're looking
So
for
I
love.
stepped into that. Yeah. But that is when you actually don't know, but you step into your purpose because you have woken up. And unbeknown to me at that time, I mean, in those years, mindset, my mental wellness and stuff was not on the table. Those words didn't exist. If you had any mental issue, you get locked up and you go into an institution, you know, and you never come out the same again. So I just had to keep quiet of what I discovered, but my circumstances and my environment still affected me. So my fight became harder to stay grounded and to stay with my light on, with the effect that I left school at 15. After a very bad night at home, the next morning, that night, I got into bed and I heard the voice said, you can leave school, you will never need school again. And I did the next morning, and I never ever looked back again, never. So we are all on our own journeys, but how much do we honor our journeys? And then I became conditioned in business and I forgot the journey. Although I was in the journey because I was actually helping unemployed truck drivers to recondition their minds and to get them the best jobs out there. But I didn't see it as a purpose or a journey. I just saw it as my job. Little did I know that was actually part of my purpose, is transformation of people, healing people's minds. And only when I started to write the book, I saw all the patterns and how it followed me from birth and how the aha moments happened to put me back on track. Isn't that amazing that we have that?
It's fantastic. I mean, we go through so much trauma and so many lessons from our past, and we think of them as, oh, woe is me. Why did this have to happen to me as a person? Yes. But we don't realize that it had to happen to make us the person we are today. I remember being a person that would see dead people. You know, I'm a psychic medium. I saw dead people from a young age. I could know things about people and sense things. But because I was raised in a very religious Roman Catholic life, it was difficult for me to open up and say that. And it was only when I went to the UK that it felt okay. It felt okay to sort of just open up and to be the person that I needed to be. And I've never looked back from that. You know, I still would get sideways glances and things like that. But I always believed that my gift came from God, because why would God want to punish me for a life that I already was punished with, you know, with everything that happened to me as a child, for illness, for everything? Why would he want to punish me more as an adult? For what reason? You know, he's given me something, me a gift. Why can't I use it for good? Why does it have to be, you know, taken as a connotation of something bad sense? So it took a lot of working through that to actually stand up and say to people, this is who I am. I'm a psychic medium. I always tell people, oh, I'm a spiritual counselor. And one day I didn't. And the person was okay with it. And I thought, okay, I'm going to continue to speak my truth.
Yes, that is, we are born with that gift. It is a gift. When you look at the amount of people in the Bible who had that gift, who could see, who could speak, who got messages and relay the messages. It's religion that's causing the problem, because religion is the one who's putting everything under the label of sin. Spirituality is you living with God within your heart. You're living this life. You're living your full potential, your greatness. You embrace your gifts without labels. If you don't fall into place exactly according to this rule, and I'm a reverend, so I step into their greatness and to be fully empowered in who they should be, because I know how it feels not to be. It feels like when you are not in line with who you are born to be, there's a piece of you that's dead. There's a piece of you that gets filled by another spirit, because we are a vessel, we are a spiritual being having a human experience. So if there's a part of you that's not fully embraced and filled with the Holy Spirit or with the light of God, it's going to be filled with something else. It has to be filled.
Exactly. So
that's my view.
And as I said, we can chat. So maybe just one final little piece of advice for people. Words of wisdom.
I would say if you go through a difficult time at the moment, within your cracks is a gift waiting for you to unwrap. Don't look at the pain that you experience because of a relationship that's not working, the death of a loved one, a career that's changing, or you've been fired, or you've been dismissed, or the company's closing, Don't look at what's happening in your life. That is just a symptom of a root that needs to change.
Mm.
And I always say that to people: if you have burnout, if you feel overwhelmed, if you
have a little issue with our Wi-Fi. So I see Maddie is frozen and she's jumped off the call. So I just wanted to say thank you very much to Maddie, and thank her very much for joining me. It's always such a pleasure to chat with her and gain her pearls of wisdom. So in order to get hold of Maddie, click all the information will be on the description below of the video, as well as the link for her book on Amazon. Please feel free to just go and get the copy, and maybe doing the steps will help you to find your truth and resolve your issues. So I'm your host, Priscilla Gendron. Thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you again, same time, same place, on the next time. Thank you very much for joining me, everybody, and have a wonderful day.